Welcome to TCM Talk Therapy. Hi, I'm Jen and I'm a doctor of Chinese medicine specializing in facial acupuncture, and I'm a face reader. I grew up in the West and practice in Eastern therapy.
Hi, I'm Grace and I'm a marriage and family therapist. I grew up in the East and practice a Western therapy.
Together we engage in organic conversations that bridge the topics we want to dive deeper in.
Let's get curious in finding compassion for ourselves, our bodies, and each other.
Hi, Jiaming.
Hi, Jan.
Hi. Jiaming reached out to me because she wanted to discuss some topics about autoimmune for specifically women and children. But first, I just want to let you all know who she is. Jiaming is a close friend of mine. She is the founder of Kun Health with her father, who is also a TCM practitioner. Jiaming and her father have created this amazing custom herbal formula brand that has helped thousands of people just become the best version of themselves, myself included. I'm really excited to talk about this topic because this is actually the first time we're really deep diving into like TCM topics together. Usually we're just talking like, social media, business, just how to run Chinese medicine together. But now we actually get to talk about the fun stuff.
Yeah, totally. So hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here, despite the fact that I do a lot of, I think, podcasts. Like this is the first time I'm doing it with a close friend of mine. And also, a fellow exceptional Chinese medicine doctor. And so we can nerd out together about the details, which I don't get to talk about, in other
same here. It's really rare that we get to nerd out together. And I feel like that's kind of something that I've been missing in this like TCM community.
Okay. So before that, quickly, I'll introduce myself. I'm a second generation Chinese medicine doctor. I grew up in our family clinic, actually, in northeastern China. My father is one of the most renowned Chinese medicine herbalists in, Asia. And we exclusively do customized Chinese medicine to help people with chronic disorders. So my specialties are really, if you have a chronic and weird, puzzling disease, I'm the right gal for you, right? So that includes autoimmune, that includes amenorrhea, very complex cases. Long COVID is also, top conditions. And in fact, I have a lot of teenagers and young kids or even young adults who have complex medical and health issues that they are my patients. I actually started out in my career as an economist, worked for Nobel Prize winning economists and run their think tanks from New York to Singapore and all over the world. I'm most known as a longevity economist who specifically study the data of how to keep you, live long for as long as healthy and as long as possible. So, basically to me, being a health economist, longevity economist, it's not so different from being a Chinese medicine doctor, although being a Chinese medicine doctor, as Jen will tell you, is like way more fun, right? To me, you do a deep dive of someone's chronic and complex condition that no one else has the answer but you do. So it's like fascinating to me. Let's talk about autoimmune, shall we?
Let's first talk about how autoimmune disease is viewed in Chinese medicine. Because, there's the classic case of, like autoimmune is essentially, when we talk about it in Western terms, it's like the body has begun to start kind of attacking itself, right? And whether it's due to internal inflammation or due to other causes, that's kind of how it all stems from. But we have a very different view on how autoimmune even exists or happens to come about. There's like an actual pattern and there's structure to it. So I'd like you to try to dive into that a little more first.
So how autoimmune is viewed in TCM is really, in general, a variety of things, right? There is a genetic disposition. So in short, that means, for example, hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's. If it runs in the family, your mother has it, your aunt has it, likely, you will likely have it. So that's what we call the genetic disposition. But it's also quite different in our view in Chinese medicine, where we talk about the body constitution. So in short, it means, often I give you an example. If your mother is more sensitive to the cold and she had also, as a result, a bunch of like painful period situation, then there is a higher likelihood you as a woman, as her daughter, will have the same thing. So that's what we mean by genetic disposition. And then obviously what matters a lot is the experience or, you acquired later in life after you were born. So that means your collective life experience, right? The food you have, the exercise you do or don't do, the environment you live in, the stress you accumulate in life, the trauma you inherit or you encounter. And then what, in true Chinese medicine fashion, what happens is that you take all of these things together. And then once every 7 or 8 years, depending on your gender, 8 for men and 7 for women, there is a assessment almost in Chinese medicine about where you are in terms of your health. And often in time, the first time when this happens, tend to happen for girls, will be 14 years old, right? That's when the puberty happens. And then you will see with women later in life, it's like 35, or that's postpartum, which is another time when women start acquiring autoimmune conditions. So that's in a nutshell, in general, how it happens.
Yeah. When we talk about it in Chinese medicine terminology, we can talk about this because I feel like a lot of people hear TCM terminology thrown at them, but they don't actually know what it means. So when we talk about like genetic dispositions, when we talk about like what you're born with or what you are prone to, this is all like the concept of jing or like essence. Right. Like, so many people will go on social media and be like, oh, this is my jing, my essence. I need to conserve it so I don't age or like I don't die or something like that. Right. So I just want to clarify that that's kind of what we're talking about here. And trauma, you could think of this as like the aspect of how, things that happen and occur over time. This is kind of like how people view epigenetics too. It's kind of like this scattering of energy that kind of throws your whole entire body out of whack. Right. Like it just throws it completely out of balance in a way.
I like to use the example of saying, like, when we are born, we're all given like, each person is given a bottle of water. And let's say this bottle of water, when you're born, is all like kind of half full or 100%, depending on where you are. Let's decide just to say it's half full. Then what happens is that through your behaviors, aka whether you take care of yourself or not, the level at 50% might increase or decrease, right? So when it comes to autoimmune condition, that means you're not only that when you're born is not at 50% like everybody else, is a little bit lower. If you didn't take care of yourself and drastic life events and emotional stuff and bad food and exercise, whatever, this starts decreasing from 40%, which is already lower than the next person due to genetics. It will lower fast to 20%. And then that is when autoimmune will happen. But most likely that will happen, let's say, for a girl is 14 years old, 13 years old, whenever your puberty, starts happening, most commonly postpartum or during pregnancy, because it goes with the hormones, right? When you have a sudden change in hormones, which is in line with Western medicine in that particular regard. But the holistic view of Chinese medicine has always been that you got given this by your parents when you're born. It doesn't mean you do not do anything to protect it. In fact, you should always protect it, do the best behavior, eat the right food, exercise the right way, to combat the bad stuff that's from the genes, right? But most people often in societies don't do that. So then what happens is that, oftentimes I will hear from my patients, they didn't even realize, Hashimoto's right in the family until they get diagnosed with it. Then they talk to their mom and aunt. They're like, oh, actually, all of our TSH was a little bit iffy. And then you're like, wait, what? So know your family's history, know your genetic disposition, and then start taking care of yourself, accordingly. Where in the case of, in this country, most often people find out they have autoimmune condition, which is when it already happened. So it's so really autoimmune has so much to do with prevention. I mean, everything has so much to do with prevention, right? But autoimmune in particular has so much to do with prevention in that regard.
Now, you mentioned something earlier about how the hormones affect it pretty strongly, right? And that's something that can correlate with Western medicine. But I want to talk about why this is actually a really important part, because we actually discussed earlier that, you know, this is mainly about women and children here for the purpose of this episode, right? So let's talk about why it affects women more than men and how or when it affects children.
Interestingly, we all hear this like very terrible line that has been going on in centuries, right? About women's health,
Mm-hmm.
where they will say, whenever they don't know what's happening to women, they will just say, oh, it's just the nerves. Or later on, it became, oh, it's just the hormones.
Mm-hmm.
That is not correct, but it has certain truths to it.
Yeah, it's true.
Because hormones in Chinese medicine has everything to do with digestive health. It has everything to do with emotional regulation. In this society we live in, and you and I often meet to discuss how it's very difficult for even adults to regulate our emotions, right? It is harder in general, for children, obviously. And it's also harder for women because there is the menstrual cycle every single month. It's like every single month you get attacked by a wave of change in your body, hormone wise. So, with that, there is accordingly the change in emotion, and therefore better you're able to regulate emotion. So, quick example, right? Like most women rely on PMS symptoms to tell them when their period is coming. The reason it makes perfect sense in Chinese medicine, because the liver, which stores the blood, which is in charge of your menstrual cycle, is also the same organ that's responsible for regulating negative emotions. So therefore, when you have a little bit challenges in terms of blood circulation in your body, the liver is going to stress up and respond accordingly, and usually not in a good way. That's when you will hear women having extreme emotional regulation issues, right, during
Mm-hmm.
ovulation and then also during PMS. And nowadays Western medicine give it a name, PMDD, but really it's the same thing. So in short, women are children, and children being number one, they're not able to fully regulate their brain because of neuroscience, right, and development. But also there is something very critical about children when it comes to emotional regulation, is that one of the most, I feel, important emotion is associated with digestion, right? We say digestion, emotion wise, every single organ in Chinese medicine is associated with the emotion. Digestion, aka spleen, is associated with overthinking. You can call it anxiety, you can call it focus. This is the reason why children are more prone to emotional regulation problem. So this is also why when children develop autoimmune conditions or even other things, immediately, most of the case, clinically speaking, and I see this a lot, a kid who has autoimmune condition has higher likelihood of having also ADHD. It's a focus problem, right? Um, for women is similar, like a woman who has autoimmune condition is more likely to have anxiety
Mm-hmm.
and a high level of depression. We're not saying men don't have autoimmune conditions. I have definitely treated patients who are men and they have autoimmune conditions, but you can track the statistics also. It is more common actually for children and women to develop autoimmune conditions. So this goes back to the root, everything to do with, in the face of changes, in the face of obstacle, in the face of stress and everything you can't control, which is basically the world we live in, how does one respond emotionally in a measured manner, so that will not trigger a physical response, which accumulatively will have a higher chance of triggering autoimmune condition.
Yeah, this also goes back to how we view diet in general. Like with kids, I mean, we both have kids, right? So
Yeah.
with kids, like for Chinese medicine practitioners, we're pretty strict with their diets, I bet, right? Like you eat breakfast, you eat lunch, you eat dinner, you can maybe have one snack in between lunch and dinner. Like we're really cautious about overeating, giving them too many snacks, especially like baked snacks or like packaged snacks, because these are the things that are going to ruin their already weakened digestive system, right? And so I feel like with modern day, like there's snacks for everything, or there's birthday parties that always have pizza, or, like these are just ways that are kind of hard to cope. So I always like to think of it as strategies after the fact of like once we know we can have a strategy. So that's one thing I actually really appreciate about you and the way that you practice. It's like when you give somebody a formula, you don't just give them their custom formula and be like, oh, you take this, it's 6 spoons once a day and then you're
Yeah.
done. No, you give everyone like a 20-page packet of
Yeah.
like, okay, this is the food you should try to eat. This is the lifestyle changes you should attempt. These are the things you should try to avoid. These are the exercises you should encourage.
Yeah.
Try waking up or sleeping at this time. Like it's very thorough. And I feel like that's usually what people want. They want to know like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do? So I love that you called this out immediately so that way we can give some type of structure or system to approach afterward.
Well, thank you for saying that. I think that comes from my occupational hazard of being a health economist, a longevity economist. Like, right, all we do is to understand what actually works and what is actually backed by data. That's why I always feel I call out matcha, I call out magnesium because they're not backed by data. And there are people who say, "Oh, is Chinese medicine backed by data?" Yeah, China has had a lot of people, and those people, as we know, probably in the old days are cheap and calculative. If something doesn't work, it wouldn't have been around for this long. It would have been shut down by Chinese immediately. So
It's
it was a
true.
lot of data and it's all written down. But I think you're so right in talking about the whole culture of snack. I think
Yeah.
it goes back to, and this comes again from my days of being an economist when I ran the largest think tank in the world on data collection for older adults, which then, we talk about an older society. We essentially talk about low birth rate, right? So I studied a lot and worked with global governments on that. And really the consensus, a lot of it is the work culture. When a society becomes so deeply ingrained on everyone slaving and hustling themselves, who has the time to prepare and cook for the kids? I mean, I'm talking about you and I too. Like, when you're exhausted from work one day and you come home, you're going to make them a 4-course meal. Nobody is going to do that. Like, who has the time? So then everything becomes a convenience, right? Like, you can buy fig bars. But then if you look at these snacks, first off, they're not cheap. I mean, what happened to fig bars? They're so expensive.
I know.
And you look at the ingredients and you're just like, am I poisoning them? Like, what is in these things, right? Like, it becomes a convenient thing that everything is packaged. Well, I mean, they don't exactly taste good, but then the difference is what a lot of people don't know is for a child before the age of 6 in general, regardless of sex, is crucial because that's when your spleen, your digestion, your core, your long-term potential of health is developing. During this time, the kid can develop, things, or they might not develop things, but it's a very sensitive time where everything is moldable. Things can go extremely wrong, or you can smooth sail, right? But then if I look at how in this country we treat under 6 years old, right? Most kids already are all over snacks at this point. Most kids will have problem with of food tolerance or being a fussy eater. Under 6 years old is where I treat my own under 6 years old patients like, severe eczema, asthma, strep throat infection repeatedly is another big one. But then what is really the Western medicine solution for this is often use of cortisol cream, right? And then your antibiotics, like injection, you name it, you have it. And I think a lot of parents will agree with me when you say, and this is backed by statistics, once you have strep throat infection, often what you see is that you will have repetitive infection of strep throat. Then you treat exactly the same way with antibiotics again. Then throughout this process, what happens with heavy use of antibiotics? The child's immunity is destroyed in a fundamental way. The digestion's own ability of nourishing, replenishing, defending the system, and also regulating your brain, you see, because we said digestion is associated with like anxiety, is that link is destroyed. So then usually you notice that a kid who went through this process will have higher chance of developing anxiety, ADHD, to a certain extent, depression since puberty. And often when I see older adults, right, not older, but like 20 years old, 30 years old, even my 40 years old patient, I always ask about their childhood medical history because before 6 is critical. So, I know talking, not to say talk about a controversial topics here, there are a lot of people who are against certain vaccine, and I actually have a story coming out. I am not saying it's a vaccine or it's not a vaccine, but here is the thing. If a kid has been repeatedly sick before the age of 6, right, if they are a preemie, there is a higher likelihood that their immunity is already very subpar by the time you need to do the regulated vaccine. Then at this point, when you're already not the top shape, you have a vaccine injected, depending on the dosage and everything, there is a higher likelihood they will respond with stronger side effects compared to the next child, right? So is this the problem of the vaccine? Not necessarily. But this goes back to, we say in Chinese medicine, like everyone's individual circumstance is different and one has to consider that. As parents, like obviously we all care about our kids, but like pay attention really to your child's treatment, their condition before the age of 6. It's fundamental because it does carry over.
Yeah, I always use the mood of a child, the sleep patterns, the pickiness of eating to kind of determine the state of their digestion. So here's something that I do as a parent, right? And I'm sure you do this too. So like if you notice your kid is being super fussy, very whiny, feels very slow in terms of like being motivated to do things right away, they're like, oh, it's like, hey, go put your shoes on. They're like taking their time. They don't want to do it. They're fighting back a little. They're whining in particular instead of fighting. That's usually a sign of like spleen qi deficiency too. Like their digestions are just overwhelmed. Oftentimes the overwhelm is from either overeating, like as in not having 3 meals at 3 times a day, right? Or like snacking a lot in between, or it's something where it's like overconsumption of fruit at one go, too much sugar at one time. And so it's more about like regulating the balance of it. And I want to have compassion for other parents out there because, I mean, we're both parents. We know it's hard. These kids are going to just want to do whatever they want to do. And we are the ones who have to be in charge of their health, right? And we're the ones who have to kind of put down our foot and be like, hey, you can't just have candy whenever you want, or you can't have an entire 2 bowls of blueberries in one go. It's just really not ideal for your digestion. So we have to cap it. And it's hard. We have to try.
Now, I mean, the thing is, here are my 5 signs for parents who are looking for, how do I know whether my kid is not feeling well, right? Because sometimes they just won't tell you. Here is my experience. If it's a kid under 10 years old of age, they will more likely tell you. We have a saying in traditional Chinese medicine, like a kid cannot lie about their symptom. So if they say they have a stomachache, they have a stomachache. They're not trying to get your attention, right? Especially if they tell you repeatedly. So there are 5 key signs, even if this is like, if the kid already has eczema, shortness of breath, frequent infection of strep throat, like tonsillitis, like, complaining about like frequent ear infection is another big one. Then just call me like already, or go to Jen for acupuncture. Like, but if you feel the kid is quiet, they don't necessarily tell you, here are the 5 signs. Number 1, if although you put them down at 8 o'clock, they got up in the morning, they're still tired. Like during the day, they haven't even done much. They're like, mommy, I'm tired. That is abnormal. Right? Okay, that means there is an energy problem. And kid this age, if you sleep properly, you shouldn't. Then that most likely means they either had nightmares or they have disrupted sleep, either way. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, if they always complain about stomachache. Nothing specific because kids don't know how to describe it, right? But they will just say, oh, I have a stomachache, especially after eating. Or when they say, I need to go to the toilet to poop, like in the middle of a meal or quickly after eating, that's also a problem, okay? And number 3, obviously is a fussy eater. I don't eat this, I don't eat that, but they want sugar, any kind of sugar. I want ice cream, I want donuts, I want biscuits. I mean, we all have kids who are like sweets, right? But there is a difference between I only want sweets, I will still like, I don't eat anything else, or it's more of a balance thing. And lastly, I will say is like Jen said, is the mood. If you have a moody child, this especially applies to like a younger kid. If you have a moody child, you're like before even puberty, right? Without hormone interference, then usually there is something that bothers them, right? If there is an extreme temper thing, which obviously could do with ADHD or spectrum, but then like often that anger, that frustration, that like just like I'm always whining, I'm never happy, has something to do with the physical ailment they feel, but they don't know how to express it. So these are really the 5 things like you need to look out for.
Yeah, especially when it comes to like when you hear these things, you're just like, oh, like that's just my kid. You don't think like, oh, like this could possibly be a problem.
Yeah.
But this is the reason why, like, they say that before the age of 7, most of childhood development really secures the nervous system's response to certain things. Like, it kind of really ingrains the way that children process things, children approach life decisions. Like they say that before the age of 7, like, yeah, you got to be present, you got to be a little more aware. It's just a tough time for parents, which is also the reason why, like, it's totally understandable why women, mothers in particular, could also have emotional dysregulation, hormonal issues during these times too, right? Like if you clock it at the 7 marks for the aging approach of women, it's like 35, 42. Like you see a lot of hormonal shifts. It's like your hormones versus your child's hormones. And I see this often in clinic. I mean, myself included, right? So I think the end of the day, it's about really understanding compassion for yourself first, compassion for the kid, and realizing like these are not just everybody is like this. These are things that can be addressed with the same type of like discipline, the same type of mindset as like, oh, there's something going on here. Let's figure out how to approach it. And let's try and solve this problem in a way where, everybody can benefit from it and not everybody is struggling, because, it's a very common thing. Children suffer, teenagers suffer, postpartum people suffer, menopausal, perimenopausal, like it's all viewed as suffering, but it doesn't have to be. I think that's kind of the goal of what you're trying to say here. There are things we can do with Chinese medicine, specifically when we can customize it to the very targeted person in front of us. Like your approach with custom formulas, I feel like it's the same way I approach acupuncture. Sometimes I barely even have to record notes because I'm just like, the person in front of me right now is what they are in this present moment. What you are in the past, yes, that gives me information, but what do I see right in front of me? Same thing with herbal medicine too, right? But I think that's the difference between acupuncture and herbs. Like herbs is really just like you have to take in like every single detail of the collective of the person, versus acupuncture. It actually is more important to treat what's right in front of you at that moment in time.
Yeah, it is totally right, because I think I had this analogy even when I was treating you, right? And we discussed this where I said, I feel that acupuncture is like a spring clean. And for your health, you always need that. But it's not a house renovation. Because so the house renovation and for food transformation is customized herbal formulation in Chinese medicine historically. And it is very difficult to do right because one could have like 20 symptoms. On the similar surface, they might seem completely unrelated, right? There is synergy if you have Hashimoto's or other people have Hashimoto's, whatever, like there is synergy. But oftentimes the formulation will have difference in it, because one person has Hashimoto is not the same person has a Hashimoto's. Like your symptoms vary, and the root cause, although in the case of Hashimoto is similar, is not the same, right? So like it's complex, and that is very important, and that's what customized formulation really is. Labor intensive, thinking intensive, and all of that.
This is the reason why, like if if 3 different people have Hashimoto's,
Mhm.
the 3 formulations are very likely going to be different. And it's
Yep.
the same reason why you can't rely on single herb formulas. You can't rely on single herbs. So like when people are like, oh, this is good for this, like it really doesn't count for every single person. What might work for one person very likely will not work for the next. But it's
Yeah.
because like you have to know the root of it. You have to be able to determine like, is it because of a very go, go, go lifestyle? Is it because of a damaged emotional regulation from when you were a child? Was it because of trauma, like a physically induced trauma that completely wrecked the way that your digestive system works?
Yep.
Is it because of, not having the resources to be able to afford or to be able to cook the right foods for you? Is it because
Yeah.
we just never had the knowledge of what is right for us? Is it because of overwork? There's so many things that lie into it, so that you can't treat every person the same.
That is very true. There is synergy. And that's why a lot of people were asking me, like, why do I only have blood tonic, right? Because that took a long time to get it right. Because it's anemia, and also, like, if you want skin, hair, premature aging issues, is actually less complex to treat than something as complex as Hashimoto's, right? So, for example, like, I have so many Hashimoto's patients, I lost count. Is one of my favorite conditions to treat in chronic autoimmune conditions. So I give you an example. I have one that's more due to genetic traits. Women in a family has Hashimoto's or thyroid issues. The other patient acquired the condition during pregnancy, and then so basically, which is another common way of getting Hashimoto's, is after delivery. The formula is only 50% similar because they have very different exhibition of symptoms, right? One patient has asymmetrical facial structure. So her like one eye drop because it is just different. She has basically chronic asymmetrical issue, which I fixed with one batch of herb, but like that's her typical situation. And she was basically had a very restrictive diet because she thought everything was giving her problems. So it exhibit in terms of more in incredible intolerance of food because it will give extreme constipation. It's either extreme constipation or diarrhea. Where the other patient has none of the facial changes, hers is more manifested in weight issues, right? Which is because it's postpartum in some ways. Like she had basically challenge in shedding the weight. She had more of this very bizarre symptoms where her lower extremities are really, really hot. And then there were more extreme case of hemorrhoid. There were more extreme case of fatigue. The age is different. Is in Western medicine, you will just give the same. You don't care about treating the symptoms. You just give like regulating TSH, right? Both of them were on it before they came to me, and they both said like you can't regulate the TSH because like you just nothing helps. Like your TSH is fine, but you still feel all the symptoms because this is how autoimmune condition gets you. It is autoimmune conditions more than I think any other conditions. It might not kill you immediately, but what it does is really to destroy your quality of life. Like hypothyroidism in your younger days, you might just feel, oh, I don't have energy. I'm not as energized as the next person. No biggie. I'm taking large amount of like, thyroid medication. As you get older, you will see that whole no energy becomes almost bedridden. Your mobility health is destroyed. It's almost like taking a large debt with no clear payment structure, and you just keep getting exploited. That sounds like our American healthcare system, really. Like you just pay, and pay. And then by the end of the day, you're like, I didn't really get anything in return. I feel awful. That's autoimmune. So like, can it be controlled? And in some cases, completely just not showing up at all. In other words, is like you get rid of it. In Western medicine, they don't claim you can ever get rid of it, whatever. Yes, but you have to know once you try something, like you have to know that simply it's like the same as anemia is not an autoimmune necessarily, but like it's the same as anemia. Do you still feel good after taking iron pill? Most of my patients will say no. Or you take the iron pill or you take iron infusion, you have a slight uptick of energy for like Yeah, maybe like 2 or 3 months. That's it. And how much that costs you to do the iron infusion, an arm and leg? You are not a vampire, girly. You don't need to do iron infusion. Like, I mean, like, so like this is what I mean is autoimmune condition always has a root cause because you can't catch up with the symptoms. There are way too many. I treat all kinds of autoimmune, from diabetes to celiac to MS to colitis, Crohn's, Hashimoto's, Sjogren's, which is extreme dryness in the mouth and then often in the eyes, can often be diagnosed or diagnosed at a time when you're menopausal, which at the time you also have dryness, right? Or even psoriasis. They can all be controlled. And in some ways, depending on how long you have had it and the complexity, you can basically be on remission for a very long time. But the reality of the matter is you have to, I think oftentimes is the patience, right? We have been indoctrinated in this country saying, if you have autoimmune, that's it. Like, forget about life. Like, that's it. And then often then that means you're just like, oh, I guess there's nothing really I can do. There is. Especially when you already tried one way, it's not serving you. Yeah. Just call me.
Yeah, honestly, like when I think about all autoimmune, it just goes back to the nervous system because it's like, are you able to do the basic bodily functions? Are you able to sleep? Are you able to eat? Do you have an appetite? Are you able to sleep through the night? Not just sleep, but like actually sleep through the night. Because like our body, it's kind of built to kind of actually heal itself, like our liver can actually grow back. Our body, when we go to sleep, we can detox, we can restore and repair tissue, our wounds heal. Like our bodies are built to actually help ourselves. So especially since autoimmune is viewed as this like our body attacking ourselves, it's not our body really attacking itself. It's our body telling you like, hey, something's not working here. Whether it's diet, lifestyle, emotional regulation, like routine, there's so many factors that go into it. And if your nervous system can't feel an aspect of safety, it will retaliate.
Yeah. It's like, you and I talked about that in the past. Like when you're on high stress, and you're extremely fatigued, right? What is the first response you're going to have? Is like very few people will do the right thing, calm down, give themselves a day, and do nothing. Most people will start doing 1,000 things all at the same time, not because that's the right thing to do. It's because you have to do something because you're in hyper stress, right? You're completely
Yeah, it's
not
fight or flight,
regulated by
right?
anything. That's exactly how an autoimmune system functions when it's not functioning. It will do 1,000 things, all the wrong things, none of them you need, but it's doing it. And that, I feel, is a microscope of the American society we live in.
Yes.
When there is no safety net, then whenever disaster hits and everyone starts like, oh, I'm going to do 1,000 things. And that's also the reason why North America has a huge concentration of autoimmune condition. If you look at the statistics elsewhere, it's just not as high and certainly doesn't start as young. And then one starts asking ourselves like, well, why this is the case? I mean, we know why. Women in this country don't rest at all after giving birth to kids. Children in this country are constantly under high stress. The parents are under high stress about how much money I need to take out of my retirement to pay you for school.
Yeah.
It's a high stress society.
Yeah, especially kids. I feel like kids have like busier schedules than adults nowadays. And because of the busy kids' schedules, it becomes the busy adult schedule. So it's like, do our kids really need to be doing like 5 extracurriculars in a week?
Yeah.
Or do they really need to like adapt to these schedules where they are in school all day long and then they have to eat a very quick lunch or a quick snack and they're starving? Our school systems are also not exactly made to cater to the diet or lifestyle that is measured compared to other places in the world, right? Like if you go to Asia, they steam all their foods for the kids. The kids are in charge of like making sure the steamed food goes into the steamer in the morning. Steamed is so good for the body. It's like the most nutritional way to actually keep all the vitamins and minerals inside of like the food you eat. But like, what about here? It's like everything's baked, everything's fried, everything is like, in a packet. They're not real food.
My son the other day came home and said he had a slushy for lunch.
Exactly. Like it's not real food. So then, and especially with the pace of everything here, like in certain parts of the world, like there are siestas, right? They intentionally put time in the day to have rest. Some places don't open any stores until 10 a.m., 11 a.m., because they value that slow morning routine. In America, everything is just get up, get ready, get going, do everything you can, try harder, do more, or you're lazy, or you're judged, or you're like ridiculed in certain ways. Like, oh, you're not in piano lessons. You should sign them up for piano lessons. This is the time to do it. And, like it's not necessary. It just creates more stress, more dysregulation, less time for you to actually digest your food. And then, these are the things that could happen at these 7-year, 8-year marks that could really force your body to say like it's not working. And I feel like the reason why you became so like one of the best things that I love about your content is that you embodied the art of way, which is like the art of doing nothing. Like it's such an important thing to do nothing. You have no idea how many people I tell who are like either having severe dermatological conditions, trying to get pregnant with an autoimmune disease. I'm like, you have to go take a vacation and do absolutely nothing. I say this so many times to people and they're like, doctor's orders, I have to go on a vacation. But I'm like, no, really, you really do need to, because this is the root of it all. You're moving too fast. Your body can't keep up.
I think it's so right when you say that, because whenever I think about autoimmune condition and I think about, and I give you something that's interesting from my observation. It's a general statement, but pretty much all my autoimmune condition patients, I feel in terms of intelligence, are definitely way above the national average. There is something to be said about a person who is too smart. Then what does that mean in Chinese medicine, right? You overuse your spleen. You overuse
your too much
thinking, right?
Exactly.
And you don't know when to stop. Yes. So this is why racing thoughts, which then impact how fast you can fall asleep and sleep quality, is a common almost symptom across all board for autoimmune patients.
It's related to the earth element, which is all about abundance. Like when you think of earth, you think of the soil, it's all about abundance. It gives and it gives and it gives until it literally has nothing left, and it still gives. It will take the sacrifice before it risks the other thing of not growing. This is not sustainable.
And you say that we say like it's earth, and what a lot of people don't realize is when we say common idiom like feel grounded, that means earth, that means your digestion, right? When we say, oh, listen to your gut, you won't be able to listen to nothing if you don't have a gut. Exactly. So this whole thinking thing, the whole anxiety thing, when Western medicine just discovered this and be like, oh yeah, with autoimmune condition, you're highly likely to have anxiety. It's not highly likely. It's by default you will have anxiety. Yeah. And that is due to the manifestation of your digestion not functioning, which then that means if you're a machine, you're 24/7 working. I am not maintaining you. I am not oiling you. I am giving you all the time job. It's like the most extreme version of capitalist society, and you don't get paid. And then one day your machine completely break down. You tell it to do 1, it will do 2 and 5. And that's in a nutshell how an autoimmune condition happens. And in this country, how do we actually manage our autoimmune condition? Give you more drugs. You go to the functional doctor, get tested for 20 things. Okay, 20 indicators come back abnormal, which is common for autoimmune, right? I give you 20 supplements. How is that then different from your iron infusion and iron tablet? Right? You dump all these things in your body, which, by the way, has a worse ability of filtering toxins and a worse ability of digestion, first off, and then you dump 20 supplements in it. Did you see the irony in that? It's oftentimes when people say like, this is why I have, celiac patients who have no symptoms. They eat like basically normal as everybody else. So there's no energy issues, like none of that. So yeah, on book you have celiac. All her indicators are way better. It's the same with Crohn's and colitis or Hashimoto's. Like So I think our definition of one has autoimmune needs to be carefully considered. Does that mean that's the end? No, it's not the end. It's definitely not the end. But how you view it, right, is important. Because if you think that's the end, that autoimmune will, the more nervous, like you said, the less regulated your nervous system is, the more wrecked your body is going to give. There is nothing that can be worse than not having the faith in your own body.
Exactly. But here's the thing, like our nervous systems are wired to be like regulated and dysregulated for a reason, right? It's just meant to be more regulated than dysregulated.
Yeah.
You know, dysregulation is actually a good thing in my opinion for some cases. Like if you see injustice happening, yeah, I want to be a little dysregulated. I want to fight
Yeah.
for it. Or if you see something where it's like you know, someone's like approaching you, you feel under attack, yeah, you want to be able to have the skills to, you know, either fight back or run away, whatever makes sense. But the goal is to be able to not be triggered so easily, right? The goal is to try and get to a state where your body can be like, wait, I can pause, I can process it, and I can react accordingly to what is appropriate to the situation. But I think the pause part is really hard because there's no practice. There's no practice of pause here. Everything is like, okay, I did this, I accomplished this, I have to do the next goal. What's the next goal after that? Okay, now I have to do this. It's like there's no pause. There's no sense of like, okay, can I just wait a minute? Can I reflect? And that's the balance of yin and yang, because you're just running on all this yang energy, all this go, 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 warming, activating, stimulating, you know, intense type of energy, which can be great, right? It's the reason why half of us run on caffeine, no sleep, a million goals. But then at the same time, it's like so many people fall into depression into the winter because like they don't get that extra stimulating energy from like a beautiful sunny day. You know, you don't know how to pause, you don't know how to regulate, you don't know how to reflect. It's going to catch up to you. And then once it really hits, your body's going to be like, no, you need this. I'm going to put you in a depression. I'm going to make your body slow down. You know, I'm going to make you gain some weight so that you physically feel so heavy you can't move, because this is what you really need, right? Like you couldn't even interpret it that way. When you feel all these autoimmune symptoms, you could see it as like hyper. Oh, there's like too much of a sedentary thing going on now, so I'm going to hyper activate you. Or there's too much of everything going on, so I'm going to make you hypo, right? Like that's the balance of yin and yang. It's just a matter of like how your body reacts accordingly to what is yin, what is yang in your body.
So important that I think there is an analogy I often use with my patients, which is like yin and yang is like a candle. Yang is the spark, yin is the wax that nobody cares about.
Yeah.
You buy a candle because you buy a candle. At least I'm the cheapo, right? Agent auntie. I will look at how big the wax is, because I know, like, you know, if the wax is not big, then you're going to burn out. Why am I paying by the way, why are we paying $30 for a candle? That's the point. The wax is the unsung hero nobody gives a crap about, but that is yin. That is life's source. That's your reserve. That's the reserve in New York water. And that's why New York has great water, right? You don't want that reserve to deplete, but it will if you don't take care of it. It will if you overburn the candle on the top. You're lighting it night and day, night and day, night and day. And in a nutshell, autoimmune situation happens when you're always burning bright and too bright using the spark, and you don't do anything with the wax. You don't replenish it. Yes. And what's going to happen? One day it's going to snap. You can't burn it anymore because there's no wax. That's a drastic life health event. And that's when autoimmune situation happens.
Yeah, and that goes back to that like bottle of water analogy, candlestick analogy. It's like you're burning up your jing, you're burning up the essence of what keeps you like
you. Burning the ability and the potential of you replenishing yourself.
Exactly.
And that is very serious.
Yes.
And that's the thing, right? About, we always say in Chinese medicine, what's the number one thing you absolutely cannot do is to burn the midnight oil. Because there is nothing that burns that wax, that jing faster than you don't go to bed until 3 a.m. in the morning.
Okay, so let's give some compassion for some people with like infants, for example, right? Because obviously this is a huge thing. Kids don't sleep sometimes. And we're the ones who have to kind of like make sure that they can, right? That's just a parental job. So if you can't sleep at night, you have to find your pause in the day if you don't want to burn that midnight oil. This can look like when you're working, you're not working for 3 hours straight. You're taking like 5-minute breaks in between, 10-minute breaks in between. You take the time to go pee, go take a poop, like take the time to actually listen to your bodily functions. If you feel sleepy midday and there's nothing you can do, you can at least take 2 minutes to yourself. This can be pausing your mind, just bringing awareness to your body, being like, hey, what do I need right now? Do I need a walk? Do I need to close my eyes for 10 minutes? Do I need to do something? You can afford 10 minutes. I just want to say that. Like, you really can. Power naps are amazing. I do it all the time.
Jen is a lot less strict than me.
Yes, that is true.
She is a lot more less strict than me. I think to me is like, also both of us being mothers, and no, that is the hardest time, that you really have to like deal with it when there are periods of time. My thing is always make your husband do it. So you don't suffer, make your husband get up so you don't suffer, because you want to shorten that burn the midnight oil stage. You don't want that to be a prolonged stage. And this is what I'm saying, because who are the highest population in terms of statistics and also in terms of Chinese medicine who are going to have infertility problem, for example, are the people who do night shifts, right? Because there is nothing that deplete your jing, your essence, that wax, that sustain your burning more than doing night shift. So this is why nurse practitioners who have a long history of doing night shifts tend to have more health issues, either developing as early as 30s or even like late 20s. And air hostesses, especially if you do a job, you always fly the night and then the cross Atlantic night, that's when they are more likely to have fertility issues, because the night is also when your body replenishes, right? That's when you start your female hormones, your good stuff, your hydration, all of those happen, your blood, everything reset, regroup in the night. If you're awake, then you can try your best to compensate for it during the day, but that's not when this happens. Does that make sense? So I would always say, like, obviously we all have to do what we have to do, but definitely don't be the only carer for your kid. Don't be the only person who frequently get up in the middle of the night. Poke your husband, poke your partner, like make them do it. Spread the pain, spread the suffering. You don't want to take the suffering all on yourself, because your body will pay for it. And
it's literally suffering. Yeah.
It literally is suffering. It will literally make your body pay for it. And this is why Hashimoto's symptoms for women, for example, postpartum, can happen as quickly as after you deliver. It can also start developing like within like any time, like after you deliver. And it's because you're still paying for what you did 2 years ago, right? So
it's like a debt.
Yeah, it's a big debt. It's a big debt that has no clear payment term. Who wants to do that? Like, so I think that's like the last thing I want to say, pretty much on this, is like really like women who are throughout century, we're the carer, we're the giver. Forget about that, right? Don't take birth control. I always say, don't take birth control pill. Make your partner do vasectomy or use the newest condoms from Japan. Like whatever it is, don't do it yourself. You don't have to be the bearer of the suffering. Make other people do it. That's always my thing. Or when you can't avoid the suffering, in the case of postpartum care, spread the suffering, right? Make other people do 80% of it, and you do what's necessary. And I think that's also the thing. Women feel, oh, I breastfeed. Then if you breastfeed, that's the only thing you do. You're not then go clean the house, cook the food, like take your other kid to school. You're not doing any of that. Other people are doing it.
Yeah. And then because women are more prone to hormonal changes, the crash is a lot more likely. It's a lot stronger. And then with men, usually their version of like a hormonal crash, usually they're actually on a 24-hour cycle versus women who are on like a monthly cycle.
Yeah.
So it's very different, So it's important to consider those when you are thinking about like the communities that support you, or like the way that you approach your day to day. Like it has to be smart of a system. Like instead of like trying to push yourself to work more and support more, just think of like what system works for me. I think that's actually one of my New Year's resolutions. It's just like creating systems of a morning and night routine so that I'm not freaking tired every day, you know? Yeah, like it's like, we have to do this as women, as caretakers, and men too. Like if you're in a caretaking role, like yeah, you're gonna feel depleted, but you have to know that you're on a 24-hour cycle, or you're on an 8-year cycle versus women who are on a 7-year cycle. So like when you have these expectations of like when things might decline, you just have to take those initiatives. Like I have a rule for my husband, like when you turn 40, you're not allowed to drink ice water. Like really, really not allowed to. It'll just completely ruin your digestion, your circulation. And that's really the key to health, is your digestion, your circulation, your ability to self-regulate, your ability to sleep and restore and repair yourself. Like these are all just the fundamentals our bodies already can do. We just have to give ourselves the opportunity or create systems to kind of put it in place. So I guess to tie everything in, it's just like, try to create the smarter routines. But honestly, when it gets really hard, it's okay to look for support. And that's what people like me and Jiaming are for, right? We're here to help support you when it gets really hard and it's impossible to self-regulate. You need that extra push to help. And you don't want to rely on these like pills or injections or surgeries. You want something that's a little more of like a, okay, I can train my body to do it. You know, I don't have to just accept it forever.
Yeah.
There is a solution that we can put. It might be slower, but actually it's honestly pretty fast.
It's pretty fast. I mean, when I treated you, you remember you were like, what? I'm like, yeah. I mean, the right formulation can be very
I had zero energy before I took Jiaming's herbs. Like I was every day, zero motivation to do things, always had like the ADHD symptoms of executive function where I just start something and I really could not complete it because I did not have that digestive energy, really. She helped me poop every day. I never had that in my life, you know? It's great. I'm not as irritable.
I basically finished treating and you basically stopped and you're fine. You don't have executive function issue. But then like in the textbook, you'll be considered as a classic ADHD. But then my thing is like half of the patients who come to me who have ADHD do not actually have ADHD because, I mean, you're improved in executive function. So how is that possible, right?
Yeah. And that also was like a huge part of like, you know, like it was cleaning up my digestion. It was finally figuring out like after that, like, oh, I have a chance to actually get to know myself now. I have a chance to actually understand what my self-worth is. I did a lot of reflection. I did all that yin stuff. And that really transformed the way that I operate. Now I have this whole game plan for next year and I actually feel like I can do it. You know, it's life-changing.
I want to just say I'm so happy to hear that. But here is the thing, everybody, because I famously do not do acupuncture and external treatment. Jen is the best, and I want to say the best, aka worse you flying from New York for, worse from you flying from Texas for. She is the best acupuncturist. She is also the best like cosmetic acupuncture person out there. And I wish I still lived so close to her so I could go like, you know, like multiple times a month. And ultimately, she has the heart and the commitment to do Chinese medicine the right way. And, you know, you and I often nerd about this. Actually, shockingly, or not so shockingly, as my dad would say, not many people will take the hard road. No. Not many people will do things the right way especially in today's wellness industry when on the surface there is so much money grab in it, right?
Yeah.
But like I, as a person who has personally gone to Jen to do acupuncture, and she is just phenomenal. And I think we trust each other so much that we treat each other when we need to. So if you're in LA area, California area, or if not, you're just like doing a trip that you want to have just a transformation, like definitely go to Jen. I highly recommend her. And she has a heart of gold. And I can't say that about everyone. So
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. And I really enjoyed nerding out with you today about like how we can finally let people understand like the whole layout of what autoimmune really stems from, you know, like the root of it all. and not just like symptom by symptom. Like with Chinese medicine, we always say root versus branch. Really, root causes everything. That's what creates those life-changing moments.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
And have a good day.
Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, give us a 5-star rating on Spotify or leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It's a small little act that helps other listeners discover our show. And if you haven't already, click the follow button to make sure that you don't miss the next episode. Lastly, connect with us on Instagram at TCM Talk Therapy. We love hearing from you. Thanks, and tune in next time for more TCM Talk Therapy with Jen and Grace.